I tried to focus my attention on Christ. And I've tried to show you that, when you read Revelation, the number 7 shouldn't be a surprise to you. But the idea of the 7 in terms of Christ is this completing, or the completion of the revelation of Christ. We're supposed to be preparing for the completion of the revelation of Christ. Just as God desires for the completion, maturing of the revelation of his character in us, there is a completion of a revelation of his character in him that is obviously part of what makes it available to us, and also our message to other people. So I think the book of Revelation should be studied more and more. And I think that there's many aspects to it that we don't understand. So I'm trying to challenge your thinking on some of these things, so you kind of start looking at it with new eyes. So, and no burning question. I'm sorry, I have a million, but the more I learn, the more questions I have. So, all right, well, this morning I want to talk about the sanctuary. We'll talk about that, but I guess I want to share something with you first. I'm going to read something for you. I know that most of you realize that the world is gone crazy, right? Mm-hmm. The world is actually
everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're secular, whether you believe, the whole world knows.
Yes. And if you watch the craziness that's going on, it seems like there is almost a purposeful desire to destroy this world. It's almost like when I watch what the leaders of this world are doing, it's almost like they're purposely trying to get World War III going. Or when you watch what's going on with the economy, they're printing money by the billions and then handing it out to everybody. They're purposely trying to destroy the world economy. They're purposely trying, it seems like everything is trying to destroy what is, so out of the chaos they can do what they think they want to do. And it reminds me here, it says, after these things I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun, ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God. Picture, you're just kind of flooded with all these details, and nothing seems to make sense. Have you ever had that experience when you're reading Revelation? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So each scene of Revelation has a sanctuary context. And this is some comments that she makes. So she says the subject of the sanctuary should be carefully, I'll add prayerfully, in other words, slowly, with purposeful effort, to be examined. It lies at the foundation of our faith and our hope. So, when God says thy way is in the sanctuary, Jesus is the way. The sanctuary is a revelation of Jesus. And to understand the scripture, especially to understand Revelation, the sanctuary is critical to understanding it. And she says the solemn service of the sanctuary typified grand truths that which be revealed to successive generations. So, again, not just the sanctuary in terms of understanding it in its yearly function, but also understanding the sanctuary, how it goes through time, from one generation to another generation to another generation. Mm-hmm. So, when you begin the book of Revelation begins in the holy place. When John wrote the book, that's where Jesus was. So whenever anybody starts reading the book of Revelation starts with Jesus in the midst of the golden lampstands. It starts in the holy place. That's pretty clear. Most people get that. Kind of. So it starts here. You see the red stars. I put a red star there. So in Revelation 4-7, it occurs in the Revelation 4-7 occurs in the context of the throne. 12 times in Revelation chapter 4, the throne is mentioned 12 times. Okay, so if God mentions something once, you're listening. If it's twice, you pay attention. If it's 3 times, you know he means to get your attention. When he says it 12 times, what's he telling you? And there's only one throne in the sanctuary. And if you find another one, please come show me. I've been checking for 30 years. I can't find another one. Now, the throne is movable, so, no worries. But the point is, there's only one throne.
I'm kind of worried about that time because another place it says that they don't want to be on the sides of the north,
Yes.
like the table. So what's the relationship there?
Well, it's not, no, yeah, but see your text. When Satan wants to sit in the sides of the north, that's Isaiah 14, right? But the uppermost sides of the north is actually north that way.
Oh,
It's heaven. Yeah, the sanctuary, we look at the sanctuary, from east to west this way, but actually when you see the sanctuary was actually a portable Sinai. Okay, so when you when Moses went to get the 10 Commandments, where did he go? He went up to the top of the mountain. So the sanctuary, we look at it this way, but actually it's this way. And the north is up there. So when you go up the mountain, you're going north. And the uppermost sides of north is where the throne of God is. That's the most holy place. So again, there's looking at the same symbol different ways gives you more insight, right? It doesn't do away with the other when it's sideways, east, west, north, south. But when you're talking about Isaiah 14, when he's talking about the sides of the north, he's talking about heaven. That's where he wanted to sit, right? So Revelation 4-7 occur in the context of the throne. And so when you're in Revelation 1-3, you're in the holy place. When you're in Revelation 4-5-7, you are now in the most holy place. So Revelation 4-5-1, Jesus is our great high priest at the right hand. The right hand is the position of the high priest. Any questions with that? Just look up Hebrews 8:1-2. It tells you clearly. So the right hand is the south side. Sure. Actually, the south side is the right side, right hand of the congregation. So Jesus, in Revelation 5-6-7, Jesus moves from before the throne to upon the throne. This is the event of Revelation chapter 5. By the way, if you want to, you can write down 9T267. That's Mrs. White's statement in volume 9 of the Testimonies. She says that Revelation chapter 5 needs to be closely studied. It's of great importance for God's people who will face the last days or live in the last days. She's telling us that Revelation chapter 5 is about the end. By the way, she was saying that because there's some other ideas out there that are not in harmony with what she's saying. So in Revelation 5-6-7, Jesus, the Lamb, is actually taken from ministry before the throne. He's placed upon the throne. Revelation 5-6 says the Lamb stood in the midst of the throne. So him that sits upon or in the midst of the throne in Revelation 5-7, you'll see that it's mentioned 7 times. And when you find a section of Revelation where Jesus is mentioned 7 times, it's telling you something, right? I had the verses for you up there. This is the event that we are waiting to actually happen. This is the event that causes all the other events to take place. Jesus is the arche. He's the beginner. He's the initiator. God is not responding to what Satan is doing. God is responding to what God is doing. Because Christ is truly the King. Right? So this is your statement on the north side. is the kingly side. That's the statement that you're using. And we could talk about the presence, I could talk to you about that. Because most people, they don't see it in Revelation, but it is there. Just like some people say they don't see Jesus in Revelation 4. They bump their heads. The book of Revelation is a revelation of Jesus. There's not a whole chapter in the book of Revelation that's not about Jesus that isn't there, right? That's just a misunderstanding. So the point here is in Revelation, you've gone from Jesus ministering as high priest in the holy place, Jesus ministering high priest in the most holy place, to Jesus being the king in the most holy place. In Revelation 8 through 9, now you're going to the golden altar. The golden altar is now back out into the holy place. And this is Revelation 8 and 9 and 13. You notice it's introduced that way, and then the sixth part, the sixth and seventh, there's a reference to that originally when the so here you're in the trumpets. The trumpets are connected to the golden altar, and then in Revelation 9:13, which is the sixth trumpet, then the golden altar is in Revelation 8 is in the context of the golden altar. So you go from here to there, then you go out. He's starting the process of coming out. Revelation 10 through 14 is referencing the porch. It takes you out to the porch. Revelation 10, by the way, our pioneers knew that Revelation 10 was a Sinai. They understood the great disappointment as a Sinai experience. Revelation 10 is actually a Sinai experience. It's actually written in the context of Sinai experience. And then, of course, if you see, I have Solomon's temple there. You see, I've talked to some of you about the Jachin and Boaz. Okay, so this is the pillar Jachin. That's the priestly temple, priestly pillar. This is on the right hand, the south side. And when Aaron was inaugurated as high priest, he actually camped for Solomon temple that existed at Aaron's day, which you know I'm saying, the inauguration of high priest. They camped out for 7 days right there in the porch by that pillar Jachin. And when they coronated the king, of course, it's called Boaz. And who is Boaz?
Strong man.
Connected to David. Yes, strong strength. Strength is a kingly function, but he's actually connected to David. This is the kingly pillar. So this is the priestly pillar, this is the kingly pillar. And he would stand by that pillar. He stood at the pillar, standing as a symbol of kingship. And that's where he would be coronated as king and presented to the people. Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed something. Did you say Aaron was connected to, he wasn't around when Solomon's temple was?
Yeah, no, but still, when he was inaugurated in Leviticus chapter 8, he camped out at the porch of the temple, the sanctuary.
The sanctuary.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sanctuary and temple, yeah. One's a building, one's a tent, but it's the same thing, right? Yeah, so those are the places, by the way, much of Revelation takes place in the context of the porch. As we'll see, I'll show you. So the porch and the laver. By the way, I say that because in Revelation 10, remember, the angel comes from heaven, his face is like the sun, he has a rainbow, he has his book open in his hand, and his legs and his feet are what? Brass. His 1 foot on the, and 1 foot on the earth. Yeah. So here's your bronze pillars, his legs are bronze, and here's the sea, and here's the earth. The laver is actually called the sea, S-E-A-C. And so when you're reading about the sea, it's actually a reference to the laver. So the point here is that Revelation 10 and 11 and 12 and 13, 14, these events all take place at the porch. So now you've moved from the holy place to the most holy place, he becomes king, he starts moving out from the most holy place, then to the tabernacle of the congregation, then he stands at the porch. And then Revelation 15 through 18 takes you from the laver, then to the bronze altar. Bronze altar, the altar bronze is where the context of the plagues are being poured out. Because that's what the high priest sprinkles the blood 7 times. Sorry, that's David's homework class in the afternoon. Yes. So then we've gone, now we've gone, he's come all the way up to the outer court. Well, there's only one event that takes place after that. What takes place after Revelation 18? Revelation 19. What happens in Revelation 19? Yes. So Revelation 19:21 actually happens at the east gate. That's when high priest actually comes all the way out. We call that event the second coming. Notice on the diagram I've given you that the second coming happens in the same place as the first coming happened. The first advent and the second advent happen at the same place in the sanctuary, which means that he's come out now to the people. That's why we're going to see him, right? That makes sense. So as you're reading through the book of Revelation, you need to pay attention to where you are and what the sanctuary context is. Now, I don't want to confuse you. I guess got to keep my comments limited this morning, I guess. Maybe next year when you come back reading and you have a million questions, and I'll say, good, I'm glad you're studying. Try not to say too much. Hopefully you're learning. If you have questions, figure it out.
We're having, sir.
No, that's all right. So what I'm actually showing you on this picture is the chapters of Revelation. Revelation 1, 2, 3 is in the holy place. Revelation 4 through 5:1 begins here. Revelation 5, 6, 5 actually starts at verse 6 to the end of 7 is when he becomes king. Then he comes out to the golden altar. Revelation 8 to 9 deals with the trumpets and the gold and the holy place. Revelation 10 to 14 he takes you to the porch. Revelation 15 to 18 deals with the outer court. And Revelation 19 to 21 deals with Christ coming and then what happens to Satan during the 1,000 years, and then the restoration of all things and the New Jerusalem. And then, of course, actually the cycle starts again, right? Because he's going to take us when he comes to our heavenly home, and then we're going to begin the process of 1,000 years, right? And then there's going to be a third coming. And then, of course, after the third coming, then it will be done. So the process actually will recur again, which is cool. So we can have another Revelation class and then talk about totally different fulfillments that we talked about before. And we won't get nervous because it's the eternal gospel 101 and all of us will be Yahooing, right?
And
then
we'll
after
have
that, he'll show us
plenty of time.
That's right. So this is what I'm sharing with you about the book of Revelation. And the reason why I only focused, you'll notice, well, we didn't even get out of Revelation chapter 1, but if again with the fractal idea, when you see part of the picture, you're actually seeing the whole picture. And all the parts of the picture that reflect the whole picture, when you put them together, is a picture of the whole picture. And then when you see that whole picture, that's only actually a part of the big picture. And then it keeps, and you go from big to small, where you go. By the way, that's a good way to check what you're finding, right? If you're finding something and it's not a repetitive pattern, then it's probably a good indicator that your idea is not right. So he's the high priest, Day of Atonement. Revelation 5, he becomes king. And then in the context of Revelation 5, the 7 seals take place, Revelation 6 through 8. Then he goes out, Revelation 8:3. Then the 7 trumpets take place. And he goes to the porch. Then in the context after the 7 standings at the porch, which I didn't put on there, then 7 last plagues. And then, of course, Revelation 19. So we read the book of Revelation. When we read the book of Revelation historically, we kind of jump around. Oh, this means this. Oh, then this means this. And it doesn't really make any chronological sense because what we're dealing with is partial fulfillments. So when you deal with something in part, you kind of have to jump around to make the pieces fit, right? But when you actually see Revelation correctly in terms of the big picture, you realize, God hasn't lost his mind and been confused jumping around. No, we're the ones that confused. The book of Revelation actually follows a chronological pattern, a set pattern that fits the sanctuary liturgy. And so actually you can read Revelation 1 right through Revelation 22, and it actually makes sense. It follows itself. And there's no jumping around. Yes,
Where is Revelation 15, 16, 17, 18?
right here. That's what I shared with you. It's in here in the outer court.
Oh.
That's what the 7 plagues, right? Revelation 15 introduces 7 courts, 7 plagues. Revelation 16 is the 7 plagues. Revelation 17 and 18 is explained by the plague angel. So that's why I tried to share with you here in this previous slide. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Some people teach, by the way, that all this up to Revelation 14 is history, and all you're waiting for is Revelation 15 through 18 to happen. So the phrases that introduce the revelation of Jesus give us insight into the flow of revelation. So when we plot the references in their sanctuary context, you begin to see the same flow. And by the way, I'm giving you the big picture first, but now I'm going to start choosing some of the symbols or some of the symbols within Revelation and start plotting them for you. And then it's very interesting where they come up when you start plotting them. And then you start seeing this repetition of the flow and what it's saying. So I talked to you about the is, was, and is to come. I was showing you how it is. High priest, the was, gives of Christ's death, and then the is to come when he becomes king. But when you look at the phrase is, was, and is to come in the book of Revelation, there's actually 7, yea, 8 phrases. And you'll get used to that phrase 7, yea, 8 when you get to Revelation. Right? But so the first 5 that we talk about them in Revelation 1, 4 through 8. And the prologue, the is, the was, and is to come. It happens in the holy place. The next place you see the phrase is and was and is to come is in Revelation 4, verse 8, when he's in the throne room. Okay. And then I snuck Revelation 5, 6 in there, and I'll tell you what that means in a second. But then the other 2 phrases of is, was, and is to come then happens at the porch in Revelation 11, 17. And then the last is and was and is to come happens at the 7 plagues and the altar of burnt offerings in the outer court. And so when you look at the phrase is, was, and is to come, and you plot it in the book of Revelation, you see this process. Does that make sense? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, the reason that I'm saying about Revelation 5, 6 there, because remember, the is and was and is to come in our prologue of Revelation chapter 1, when we studied it. Part of the is and was and is to come, and go back, we can put it here. See, this is the is and was and is to come about him. Remember, the is and was and is to come when it talks about him and us. It says that he makes us kings and priests unto God. That's the is to come. That phrase, he made us kings and priests unto God, is only found 3 times in Revelation. So you see the first time it's mentioned here in Revelation 1, 6, because it's dealing with the result of what Christ is doing, the is to come. Then the next time it's mentioned is Revelation 5, verse 10. And that's when he becomes king. When he becomes king, what happens to us? In Daniel 7, when he's seated on the throne, what happens to us? He gives us the kingdom. When he becomes king, when he's exalted as king, his bride is also exalted. Yes? So when he becomes king, then we become kings and priests of God. Actually, when he transitions from being high priest to becoming king, then actually we become the priests, because we're an extension of him and we follow him, right? So this phrase, made us kings and priests unto God, is mentioned 3 times. First time it's in the holy place. The second time it's actually in the most holy place when Christ becomes king. And then the next time it's mentioned is Revelation 20, verse 6, all when he's come all the way out. So again, when you plot the phrase, made us kings and priests to God, and you recognize that it's connected to this is and was and is to come, you see the same path. Any questions? What I'm saying making sense?
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to make connections. So, let me choose some sevens that I shared with you earlier so you can see. Yes.
We're gonna explain verse 6 of chapter 5, being the is was. The
Yes.
other,
Well, Revelation 5, actually Revelation 5:10 is the phrase where he made, when he's put on the throne, then it says, he repeats the phrase, he makes us kings and priests unto God.
but you had 5, 6 in the earlier list. and so
Yes,
we're gonna-
because that's when he's placed on the throne. And then the verse 5:10 is when, because he's been placed on the throne, then he makes us kings and priests unto God. The two events are connected. Never made priest unto God till he's made king, right?
Daniel.
So the phrase that I shared with you before, I heard behind me a great voice as a trumpet. And then, well, those are the 7 places in the book of Revelation where this great voice, you hear the phrase great voice is used. All right. And then, of course, when you plot those verses in the sanctuary context, you see that it's introduced in Revelation chapter 1, and then you see the other six references are at the porch, and then going out to the altar, and then to the outer court.
Can you go back to that other one? That one just before this one?
This one?
Yep, thank you.
By the way, this book is really helpful when you're trying to look at a symbol and see how many times it's mentioned. And then you can actually, it'll not only tell you how many times it's mentioned, it'll actually give you the verses where it's mentioned, so it can help. And now sometimes the symbol, you have to pay attention, right? Because sometimes translators, when they translate the symbol, they don't translate it the same way every time. Like, for example, how many times do you think the bottomless pit is mentioned in Revelation? 7 times. But if you look it up, sometimes some versions will tell you it's a bottomless pit, and other times it'll tell you it's the abyss. So if you go look up the bottomless pit, and you say, oh, see, that's not mentioned 7 times. Then you look up the word abyss and you realize, oh, it is mentioned 7 times. You just translated the word differently. So you have to look, you have to pay attention to what you're doing. But I'm only covering some of the 7s. There's no way we could cover them all, but.
And there's good online Bibles that have a concordance built into it, which
Yes.
makes it easier.
Well, what's good about the Strongs is that you can actually go to the back and look at the Greek and Hebrew and look at the word that's used.
Yeah.
And then you can, when you look up the other word that they translated a different way, then you look that up and you realize, oh, it's the same word. They just bumped their head and translated it a different way, right? So, by the way, you'll notice with a bunch of these 7s that most of the activity, you'll also notice that most of the activity in Revelation is actually going to happen at the porch itself, because that's when the revelation of the message of God actually begins to go to the people who don't know.
What did that last thing? What did you say? Most of it happens.
Most of the activity that you're going to find, the chiasm of Revelation actually takes you to the porch. So most of the activity happens at the porch, and that's because God is reaching the focus of Revelation is actually God trying to reach all the unreached people.
And
right?
then you said something else after that, after the porch.
Yeah, the outside, the outer court, and then outside, right? Does that make sense? So, yes, how many blessings are there in the book of Revelation? Well, yes, there's 7 beatitudes or 7 blessings in the book of Revelation. And then if you plot them in the book of Revelation, you'll see it's introduced in Revelation chapter 1, but then you'll see it starts to be on the porch, then the altar burnt offerings, and then of course beyond the outer court. And by the way, that makes sense because when does the high priest in the Day of Atonement bless the people? At the beginning of the Day of Atonement or at the end of the Day of Atonement? At the end. So it makes sense that if Revelation is following the structure of the Day of Atonement, which it is, then the blessing takes place at the end. Right? Once you've been through the process, then God blesses. Does that make sense? So again, what I'm showing you, I know I'm having fun with this, but I just keep showing you the same pattern over and over and over and over and over and over. And what the point is that you say, well, see, I'm just not taking some text and making my own idea. No, the same pattern is being demonstrated in the book of Revelation. And when you start seeing it that many times, you begin to realize, oh, God's trying to tell me something. And it's not a man's ideas. And it's so amazing that he says the same thing so multiple times in so many different ways. It says the same thing that it's like I don't have to stand up here and guess. I don't have to think, well, maybe what I'm telling them isn't true, and maybe there's another version. I don't have to guess because the Bible tells us over and over and over again, and I can stand here with confidence and tell you that's what the Bible says because that's what it says, right? I think that's important. You know, John stood with confidence when he stand and preached the gospel because the one who told him to preach was the one who told him what to preach and what to look for. So he stood with confidence when he stood to share because God told him to share. God gave him what to share, and the Spirit of God was in him to help him share. And I think this is what we need as a people, the confidence of knowing that what we're sharing is the message that God gave us to share. He's taught us the message to share. He's given us the message to share. He comes in and empowers us to share. So all we have to do is share it. And we don't have to be afraid. So this is a very interesting one I'll spend a minute on. There's the right hand is mentioned 7 times in the book of Revelation. That shouldn't surprise you. But when you start checking out those 7 times, then something does surprise you. Because I have the text on the behind the statements. So you notice that the first 4 statements of the right hand are connected with Revelation 1 and the 7 churches. Revelation 1 through 3 happens where? In the holy place when Jesus is walking among the 7 golden lampstands. So it makes sense that the first 4 statements about the right hand happen in that context because that's where the high priest ministers. It's his responsibility to trim the lamps of the lampstand. That's his responsibility. Okay. The next 2 statements, Revelation 5 verse 1 opens up with the one on the throne, and in his right hand there's a book. It opens up that way. And then in Revelation 5:7, when the Lamb goes to the midst of the throne, it says he goes and he takes the book from the right hand. Okay? That's the last time in the book of Revelation that the right hand is used in reference to Christ at all.
Wow.
There is no reference after that to the high priestly ministry of Christ in the book of Revelation. There is no right hand. The only other reference, the 7th reference to the right hand in the book of Revelation is Revelation 13, when it talks about the mark of the beast and the right hand of those who receive the mark. What does that tell us about those who receive the mark? They're in the wrong place. Yeah. No, actually, what it tells us is that the beast has become king, and these people that receive the mark, they are his priests. They are his right hand. They become his high priest. When he becomes king, they become his high priest. The same thing that happens with God and his people, Satan is counterfeiting with himself and his people. But what's important here is that the phrase right hand after Revelation 5 isn't mentioned anywhere in the book of Revelation. Why? Because after Revelation, what happens to Revelation 5? Christ becomes king. Every reference to Jesus after Revelation 5 is kingly. There is no high priest reference to Jesus after Revelation 5. What does that tell you? He's telling you what the revelation of Jesus is all about. He's telling you about the mystery of the revelation of Jesus. The book of Revelation is about Jesus becoming king and the revelation of that king. That's what the book of Revelation is about. Does that make sense?
Yes.
By the way, this is one of the I keep mentioning this because this is one of the confusing points. Many of you have been told some things about the right hand, that that's actually right hand on the throne is the king, and that is not true. It's not biblical. Not anywhere in scripture. The king sits on the throne, he doesn't sit at the right hand of the throne. So anyways, maybe next year we'll talk about, actually get to Revelation chapter 4 and 5 and study the coronation of the king, which is what I really wanted to go to this year, but I figured I would have to move too fast to get there. So I wanted to lay a good foundation. But anyways, this is very important. This is actually important. So the idea of the right hand, you'll notice that the first 4 references are here in connection to the lampstand, the 7 churches. The next 2 references are at the beginning of Revelation 5, verse 5 and 1 and 5 and 6. And then the only other reference after that is when you're at the outer court, when you're talking about the beast that's coming out of the laver, the dragon, the beast that comes out of the sea. When he's exalted as king, then his servants receive the mark on the right hand, they become his priests. Does that make sense? That's why Revelation 13 talks about the beast out of the sea. Actually, that's a coronation. And then the next beast, the next beast is the beast out of the earth. He exalts the image of the beast, and he pushes the image of the beast. That's why Revelation 13, the beast out of the earth, is described in terms of Elijah. Remember, he calls down fire from heaven. Yeah, who calls down from fire from heaven in the Bible? It's Elijah. So the beast from the sea is actually described in kingly terms. And then the beast from the earth is described in the priestly or prophet terms, as we call him the false prophet. But actually, he's the priest. He's the high priest. Because the priest and the prophet are the same. That's Elijah and John the Baptist, that's from the tribe of Levi. They're priests. So again, what I'm sharing is that when you start seeing the picture that God is showing you, then you need to also be aware that Satan is trying to counterfeit that picture. And the book of Revelation is telling you not only what God is doing in rightness, but it also gives you insight into what Satan is doing to counterfeit that, so that he can present the idea of what he's doing as rightness, and it's not right. You know, a brother was sharing with me yesterday about the 5th trumpet. He started reading about the 5th trumpet, and it's very interesting. You have this description of the 5th trumpet of the locust, and then when you go to the 6th trumpet, you have almost the same exact description, only it's a different army and different group. Well, one is Satan's counterfeit. Counterfeit always happens before the true, and then the other is God's, which is the true, right? And when you pay attention to these things, you begin to see what Revelation is saying. It begins to make sense. By the way, the more it makes sense to you, the more you will be interested to read it and excited about studying it. And the more it makes sense to you, the more you'll begin to understand more and more about it. Most people don't read it because they're too confused and they don't know what it means. So I don't know if this is well, it's not the last one. But the testimony is mentioned 7 times in the book of Revelation. And of course, those are the texts. And so again, when you plot them, you see the same process, the same pattern. A counterfeit precedes the truth. So when Satan counterfeits the second coming of Christ, is he going to wait till after the second coming or before?
I think about the Sabbath, baptism, and a bunch of things like that.
Yeah. So I'm not certain sure what the question I mean.
Well, like the Sabbath, the counterfeit Sabbath came after the true Sabbath.
Yes, but
And the baptism, the true baptism, and then they got the false baptism.
well, that's true. So Satan is twisting what God has made, right? You could say the same thing about creation. God makes things in rightness, and then Satan twists it. Yes, but I'm just saying when you're talking about prophecies in the end, then when Satan tries to counterfeit God's kingdom and deceive the people, he doesn't wait till God shines light and then give the counterfeit. He always gives the counterfeit before, because he's trying to deceive the people before they see the light. So that's why the false coming of Satan's going to counterfeit the second coming of Christ and say he's Jesus, but that happens before the second coming, not afterwards, right? And it's the same thing. We talk about the latter rain and loud cries, mighty movement that's going to sweep across the earth. Well, Satan has a counterfeit, but that counterfeit happens first, because it doesn't happen afterwards. Makes no sense. So in the book of Revelation, you see the positive, you also see the negative. But Satan's counterfeit goes before because he's trying to deceive so that people won't see the light that God is trying to show them. So yes, you're correct in what you're saying. I'm sorry, my comment is very specific in terms of the prophecies, yes.
And I think to me, he's able to do that because God first shines a light to the messengers who he wants to give the message to the rest of the people. So when Satan sees him doing that, then he can anticipate that it's time to bring his counterfeit in.
That's right.
So he's still reacting to God, but he's now beginning to anticipate God's next step and trying to prevent God from moving, which of course is going to fail, but
Right.
that's what he's trying to do.
And he knows the dynamics that he's trying to counterfeit. He stood in the presence of God. He's not a dummy. He knows. I think, well, I shouldn't say that must be a dummy because he made wrong choices, but you don't understand what I'm saying. In terms of information, he has the information. So again, you see this process. So my point here is that when we plot the phrases or the symbols that introduce the revelation of Jesus in their sanctuary context, we consistently, continually see this flow of revelation repeated.
Amen.
And when I believe that when you start seeing the book of Revelation the way it was written, instead of jumping around the way we make it jump around, then you're actually beginning to see it the way God intended for us to see it.
Amen.
Because it was intended for the people in the last days to read it and it makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I'm not saying that Martin Luther or John and Uriah Smith or anybody else read it in the past and they jumped around because they saw the parts how it applied to them. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that's only a partial fulfillment. It's not a complete fulfillment of the revelation.
It's the light
that
they got.
Right. And God meets us where we are at. Some of us jump around a little bit before we get it. It takes time. Does that make sense? So I shared with you, a lot of people ask about this, about the standing up of Michael, because we have some ideas. This is kind of fun for me, but are you interested in the seven standing up of Michael?
Yeah.
Because most of the time we read Michael stands up and we think he's sitting down, he just stands up and then it's it. Well, see, that's our Western thinking. You know, there's seven standing up of Michael, seven standings up of Christ or Michael in Revelation. Obviously that makes sense, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And that the standing up of Michael is actually a process. It's not just an event that happens once.
Yes.
Okay. By the way, that's what I was sharing with you. Because Daniel and Revelation are one book, remember? So when I talked about the standing up of Michael and explaining the description of Daniel 10 in Revelation chapter 1, then I painted a picture for you of the seven-step process of Michael standing up. Now Daniel's dealing with it from a historical perspective, but the idea here is that Daniel and Revelation are actually telling the same story in the same way. So when you start getting insights about Revelation, you're realizing, oh, I can understand the book of Daniel. Then you realize, oh no, I didn't understand the book of Daniel. Now I got to go back again and study Daniel, which I think is cool. And right. So the idea here is you see in Revelation 5:6, the Lamb is standing in the midst of the throne. Then in Revelation 7:17, the Lamb again is presented in the midst of the throne. So that those events, Revelation 5 through 7 actually occur in the most holy place, right? And then you see an angel came and he stands at the altar. That's Revelation 8:3. Now you're at the golden altar. And then in Revelation 10, the angel comes and stands upon the scene upon the land. So now you've gone from the altar to the porch. So now you're actually dealing with the holy place. And then, of course, after Daniel 10:5, Revelation 11 starts with an angel stood and he measures the temple. And then Revelation 14, the Lamb stands or stood on Mount Zion with 144,000. And then the next standing is in Revelation 19:17, when the angel stands in the sun. And that's when the birds of the air have a feast on the dead bodies of the wicked who are slain at the price of coming, right? So these are the seven standing up with Michael. Now you'll notice that he's mentioned as a lamb 3 times, and then he's mentioned as an angel 4 times. So when you look at the standing up with Michael, you're actually seeing, he's actually showing you the 7-step process of him coming out of the sanctuary as king that we call the second coming, but actually it's a process, a 7-step process. So he becomes king before we see him as king. And there is a process of that light of shining to the world so that people can accept or reject him as their king. And then that message goes forth. We call that the judgment of the living. And that begins with the house of God. It goes out to the next group. Revelation of God's light to that group. They accept him as a king or they reject him as their king. And then it goes to the next group. They see the light shines to them. They accept him as their king or reject him as their king. And then when that's done, probation closes, then Christ comes. Any other questions? Any questions, comments? Yes.
The other day you mentioned the first 3 plagues were with the 3 angels' messages. I heard some people say that it's the 3 woes. Do you have any comment on that? What the woes are and whether they're plagues or?
Yeah, I have lots of comments on that, but how many woes are there in the book of Revelation?
Really, you only could find 2 exactly. You mentioned that you're kind of assuming
There's actually 7.
there's 7 or
Yeah, there's 7 woes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, what you have to do is you have to understand the woes. The woes introduced 3 woes, and in Revelation 18, remember what happens to the woman, what happens to the merchants, what happens to the kings of the earth. See, the first woe, it says woe, the 3 woes, and then Revelation 18, there's three separate groups of people or individuals, if you would, in Revelation 18, and they say woe, 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 and then that goes woe, woe, and then woe, woe. Why are they? So it's mentioned twice. Why? Well, Revelation 17 says, give her double to what she has given. Yes. So the first woes are a woe. Right, they're introduced, and then there's 3 woes, and then in Revelation 18, it's woe, woe, it's double, because God is doing what He told you He's going to do. He's going to give her over double to what she has given, right? But when you look at it, even though it says woe, woe twice, it's still 1 woe. So when you count them, there's actually 7 woes.
Where's the 7th?
What's that?
Where's the 7th one? We've got 6.
When it introduces the woes, right? In Revelation, and is it 9? Am I in 9?
Lots of verses.
Yeah, let's verse 8. He says there's 3 woes coming. So there's an introduction of the woes, and then the 3 woes are given, and then the woes are given repeated twice. So the introduction, and then 3, and then repeated 3 more times. That's 7 times.
I was wondering whether it was at the end or the middle or.
Yeah.
So these are judgments on.
Yes. It's a process of light shining, so people can choose. But the problem is when light shines on us, it makes us uncomfortable, right? One of the best places to understand the woes is you go to Isaiah chapter 6, right? And he says, of course, the king had died, so then, right? Then there's a new king on the throne, and Isaiah is being shown the true king on the true throne, and that's God, right? And he says, I saw the king high and lifted up, right? And his glory filled the temple. And then what does he say? Woe is me. I'm undone. I'm uncreating. Because I live amongst people with unclean lips, right? I have unclean lips and I live amongst people with unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the Lord, the King of glory, right? That's what happens. That's what happens to us as creatures when we behold the King of glory, right? So yes, the 3 woes are actually the 3 angels' messages.
The revelation of glory, I how do you see it coming through God's people? There'll be lots of different ways that this will be revealed in terms of reaching the whole world?
Yeah. Well, God always has his messengers, right? So, so Moses knows he's chosen by God to deliver the children of Israel, right? Yes, he goes about doing that. How's that work?
Yeah.
Not very well, because he has his own method. He thinks he's just going to bury them in the sand, but of course, then God has to do what? Well, God has to call him out of his Egypt and bring him into the wilderness for 40 years so we can actually learn God's method, right? And then, of course, he encounters God at the burning bush, and God says, okay, you're ready. And then, of course, then Moses doesn't want to go. By the way, the fact that he doesn't want to go proves he's ready to go. If you think you're ready to go, then it proves you're not ready, right? So then when God sends him back to Moses, to Egypt, then of course the process there. But then when God brings him out, God wants the children of Israel to have their own experience, but the children of Israel they want to just Moses. So when Moses goes up the mountain and then he comes back down, Moses' face is glowing and God shows a demonstration of what he desired to do in everyone in Moses. And so the idea was they're supposed to want to go up the mountain themselves. But of course, they don't, which is why they end up dying in the wilderness. But the point is, God always has a messenger, and that messenger not only gives the message verbally with words, but the messenger is a demonstration of the message.
So we should be expecting there'll be supernatural
Yes,
evidences.
yes. And the closer it comes, or the further in darkness that people are, the more God is going to do whatever it takes to shine light in that darkness. Right? So that's why the 144,000, they have their face aglow with his name, right? Because they're the ones who actually are going to be giving the three angels messages to the people in outer darkness. Yeah, so there's a demonstration.
That brings me to my next question. It's always been a big question in Revelation is, when do you know it's literal? When do you know it's symbolic? Do you have any insights into, is it all going to end up in a literal way, or is it all going to be symbolic, or is it a mixture?
Well, the book of Revelation, right? He sends and signifies it to his angel, to his servant John, right? So the word signified means to put it in symbols, but there is some hermeneutical things that need to be kind of meshed out. But the point is, the book of Revelation is written in symbols. Now, there's a reality behind the symbol. So there isn't just a lamb on the throne in heaven, right? We don't have to explain that the lamb is a symbol of Jesus. But the problem here is that it's not for us to start picking and choosing what symbol is literal, what symbol is a symbol, because then we start doing what some of the other churches are doing, which is insanity, right? So the idea is that the book of Revelation is written in symbols, and it's written in symbols because in the ancient mind, a symbol has multiple answers to it. A symbol doesn't just mean one thing. And so you can use a symbol to say multiple things at multiple times at multiple levels, right? So the book of Revelation is written in symbols, and then we're supposed to understand those symbols in the context of the level, the symbol that we're looking at.
So when we see things happening, we'll recognize the symbol.
Yeah, the principle behind it. So, I mean, you look at Revelation 19, it's Jesus coming riding a white horse. Oh, he's not. So what's the white horse? Is it real or is it a symbol? And where do you start deciphering, which part are you going to say is a symbol, which part is real? Okay, I don't like using that phrase because it's all real, right? There's a reality behind the symbol. Yeah, some of the discussions. Yeah.
Mostly, I guess, when it comes to the plagues, then those people tend to make those more literal than other things in the
Yeah, which means they're going to miss the whole point, right? Because actually, it's telling us, it's using what has happened before, but it's telling us in a different form. So it's saying, oh, this, good. Now I'm going to take what you know, and I'm going to show it in a different way, so you get the idea of what's actually happening. Yeah, because whenever you try to make it, I mean, I met someone once and they said, oh, I read Revelation and they was talking about the locusts and I was trying to understand what locusts meant. And then I saw a helicopter on the news and I knew what locusts were. It's like, oh, please, right? That's what people are trying to do. And by the way, no one's ever taught them, so they have no, I mean, just think of this. Seventh-day Adventists are supposed to be the
That's
people on the planet that have the most light about Daniel and Revelation. Look how much light we have. Not very much. So how much are these other churches struggling to try to understand? They don't understand Revelation in the context of a sanctuary. They have no, I mean, basically they're on a ship on the ocean with no sail and don't even know where north, south, east, and west are. So these poor people are struggling to try to find, and it's very interesting. A lot of people are actually getting great light from comparison to the light that they had, and they're not Adventists at all, and they're starting to see, which is actually cool. Which means God isn't waiting for us.
Yeah.
He's going to shine light to them, whether we like
To
it or
the
not.
Gentiles. Isaiah 6. What did you say about Isaiah 6?
They were asking about the woes. What are the woes? And the woe happens when they encounter God. That's when the woe comes out. When you see yourself in light of who God is, in light of His glory, then there's a woe. Yeah. By the way, if you like to study the 7 woes, there's Habakkuk. Jesus talked about the woes in Matthew 23. Remember, the woe to the Pharisees. Woe. There's a series. Woes are connected to judgment. So in Matthew 23, there's 6 woes. In Habakkuk, there's 6 woes. There's these series of woes that are connected to a judgment process. That's why they show up in Revelation as well. So that's what obviously you're going to do. If you want to study the woes, you look up woes, the woes, and you try to study them in the context of Revelation. And you want to go back to other places in the Bible where the woes happen. You look up the woes and you study the Bible in that context. And then you understand the principle of what's taking place and when the woes take place. Then you take that principle and then you apply that to the present and the future.
So the woes in Revelation 8 are the 3 angels' message.
Yes. What happens? Let me go back here. What happens in each group? What happens to each group? There's a revelation of the 3 angels' message, and then there's the fourth angel is always the maturing of the 3 angels' message, right? And then what happens is that the light, because it's maturing, there's 2 groups. There's one mature in righteousness, one mature in evil. So then those mature in righteousness go to the next group to share the light. But those mature in evil go to the next group to do what? To stop the light from shining to the next group. And what happens then, there's a 3 angels message, eternal gospel to this group, and there's a 4th angel's message is maturing. Those mature in rightness go to the next group to shine light. Those mature in evil go to the next group to stop the light.
Amen.
Remember in the book of Acts, when the gospel went to the Jews first. So Paul would go to the synagogue when he went to town to preach the gospel, yes? And then there was a reaction from the Jews at the synagogue. And so if they accepted what he said, then what would happen? Well, the synagogue would be open, Gentiles would come, and he'd preach the gospel to everybody. But if the Jews rejected the light, what would happen? Well, they'd stone Paul, or they'd try to go out and tell the people, don't listen to this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's evil. He's some evil guy. So you see this maturing. The message goes out. You see people either rejecting, receiving the message. Those who receive the message try to go to others with light. Those who reject the message try to stop the light from going to the next group. The Jews tried to stop the Christians from preaching the gospel to the Gentiles. Right? So the book of Revelation is telling us the same thing. Book of Revelation is actually describing the future book of Acts. You read the book of Acts, you're actually reading the book of Revelation, only you're reading it in history. The same 3 kingdom dynamics, the same process of light shining, and then people maturing in righteousness and evil, and then they go to the next group and they shine that light. Right? See, the Bible, when you read the book of Ezekiel, you're reading the same thing. When you look at Moses going to Egypt, you're looking at the same thing. When you talk about Jeremiah, it's the same thing. The pattern keeps repeating over and over and over. By the way, that's how you know that you're beginning to understand and see the pattern.
Mhm.
If you don't see it over and over and over, then you're not seeing it. And if you don't see it at multiple levels at the same time, you're not seeing it. Does that make sense? So the book of Revelation is actually the revelation of Jesus, and that light is going to shine, and people are going to turn righteous and evil. And then when that happens, they become living demonstrations to the next group. And Satan's going to try to stop the light from shining, and God is going to shine the light anyway. And so, yes, there will be miracles and signs and wonders that follow the believers. And God will do what he needs to do, whether you're Philip and he whisks you away to the Ethiopian, or whether you're Peter and people are being raised from the dead because of your handkerchief, or whatever God is, however he decides to do what he's doing, he's going to do whatever he needs to do to meet the mind of the people that he's trying to reach, because he's desperately trying to save them. And he doesn't think in a box. It's not just one way. So there's not one right answer. Well, there is. His name is Jesus. But the way that he applies the principles of truth, he meets the people where they're at. That's why, we talk about the first angel's message, the eternal gospel. It goes to every nation, tribe, language, and people. In other words, you're supposed to be able to go anywhere in the world and meet any person in any context, in any culture, and explain to them the eternal gospel in words that make sense to those people. And we don't have to make everybody Western and give Western cultures to understand the gospel, which has been actually a big barrier to the gospel.
I was wondering the emphasis of angels, and like in Jesus himself appearing as an angel, a lamb angel.
Right.
If maybe going along with what you're saying, that maybe we should think of it in terms of meaning messenger, and
Yes.
that we are messengers
Right.
with the three angels' messages, and that he's relating to us by using that term angel or messenger, so that we feel like he's with us. Divinity is connecting to his people, and they were being sent out.
Yes.
This
That's
emphasis.
right. That's what the word angel means. Messenger. That's why Jesus is mentioned as a lamb, but Jesus is also mentioned as a messenger, an angel, right?
So it's meant to identify with us in our work rather than have us think it's something from out there that we don't exactly relate to.
Right.
Mhm.
So our week is over. And we're just scratching the surface of Revelation. I tried today to give you a big picture, because it helps when you're doing a puzzle to see the big picture. Because if I give you a 10,000 piece puzzle and you just open the box and you're trying to fit things together, it's like, oh no, I'm never going to fit this together. I don't even know what the picture is going to look like when I'm done. How can I fit the pieces together? So I'm trying to give you, a big picture, and hopefully you can take the tools that I've given you and enjoy as you struggle, as you study Revelation, to kind of put the pieces together. And the Lord will bless you. Blessed are those who read and hear the words of this prophecy and take to heart the things that are written therein. God promises a blessing for those who wrestle with the book of Revelation. And the result of your wrestling with the book of Revelation is supposed to be the character of Christ is restored in you. Right? Christ in you, the hope of glory. That's the purpose. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your participation, and I just pray that the Lord will bless you. Those that want to stay and ask questions or talk, you can do so. Those who need to go, can go. So, dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time and space. We thank you for writing down a revelation of yourself. Please, Lord, give us eyes that see, ears that hear, minds that understand, and a will that will surrender to you. That you will glorify your name in us. That as we all draw closer to you, we will also draw closer to each other. And that we'll actually become a body of believers that function as a body to declare your glory to the world who doesn't know you, so they can become part of the body as well. Just bless us, we pray.